Hello everyone, I'm here today with a flip-through video. This is my Shrewsbury album from March of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and it is completed. I did a flip book here. You can see it's pretty full, pretty chunky in there, but still reasonable. If I were to put it on the shelf like this, it's not bad. So I just wanted to show you, here is my outside cover. This was just a 3x4 card I had, and I chose to put that on there since Shrewsbury's in England. I figured that was appropriate. So here is my opening page, and I chose just to do a title of the city and then put a big wood veneer camera on there. But I wanted to showcase this house because I love the timber framing on a lot of the buildings that they have. And my first layout shows where I came into the city on the train. So this is the lovely train station in Shrewsbury. And then this is called Laura's Tower. It's part of the castle that is in Shrewsbury. And then I had a map of the town, and I decided to cut it down to fit in here because pretty much everywhere I went of the major sites that I visited are all on this map. So it worked out well. And then this is just walking around the major town square area, looking at the architecture and whatnot. And then I have a flip up here. There you go. So you can see I actually added this in after the fact. I didn't originally have that when I finished this layout, but I added that in. And then this is one of my favorite layouts. One, because of all the lovely buildings, and two, because I got to use so much purple. I love it. And this one was pretty simple. I used my big acrylic title here, but then a lot of this is just puffy stickers and a little bit of chipboard. After that, I decided to go over to a special library in Shrewsbury, which is the Darwin Library. And this is a statue of Charles Darwin right there. And that is because this was formerly a school, and he went to school there before he left for the University of Edinburgh. So I was super excited to be able to visit and step in the same building where he went to school. I found that fascinating. And then here's the inside. This actually pulls out completely. So this is a pocket from Allie Edwards, and you can take the whole thing out. It's made to fit inside the 3x4 pocket, and then the card is meant to fit in there. So it's actually a little bit smaller than a traditional 3x4, but you can pull it out completely. It has journaling there, and then on the back, I actually have a photo. So I like it that I was able to use a lot of those kind of special elements and have something just poking up out of the pocket there. And inside the library, there was a very strange exhibit for Septimus, the giant cobbler of Shrewsbury. It was some play that was commissioned and put on in the town, and the townspeople loved it. There's some info about it under this flip here. I found this puppet thing to be very creepy, and so I wrote about that. And I mean, I looked at the exhibit because I was there, but I certainly wouldn't go out of my way for it, and I wouldn't want to be trapped in that library at night with that thing. That's all I gotta say. So when I was done there, I went over to St. Mary's, which is right down the lane, basically. It was very close. So it worked out well that there were two things I wanted to see that were so close together. So I just have some photos here, basic photos of the outside. And then, I mean, look at this. I love the architecture. It's so beautiful. And then this is coming in the inside, and I put in some history about it. There are some different sources. I have a brochure later you'll see. I went online and found out some different things there. I have a postcard that had some info on it. So I kind of pieced all that together for the info that I included here. And then these are just things that I saw within the church. I loved the stained glass. I always do. So I have those. And then they had special war memorials for both World War I and World War II. And so I included those as well. And then just some more things around the church. This pulpit is so incredibly beautiful in its carvings. And then I talked a little bit about that as well, because there was some specific information on that included in the info that I found online. And then this is the brochure you get. And what I chose to do is only use part of it. So this is specific to St. Mary's. And there you can see it. And I added in a photo on the inside just to utilize some of the pages that I didn't really need that were about other locations, because this is part of a trust. So this brochure does not just cover Shrewsbury, it covers other churches as well. So here you can see all the ones that are listed in the brochure, Shrewsbury being number 1. And then I have a picture of the organ up there as well. And then what they're famous for is the Jesse window. It is utterly fantastic. And so I have a picture of a full view here, and I wanted to make sure to give it its due. It's on some specialty vellum here that I just cut down to fit. And I had this huge 2020, and I'm like, okay, most of 2020 sucked. What could I use it for? I decided, you know what? I was lucky that I got in this wonderful vacation right before COVID hit, so I'm going to use it for that. And then this is a closer up view. You can see the same altar here, but I zoomed in to get some more detail in the windows, and then that beautiful purple covered altar there. And then I just luckily had this wood veneer that worked perfectly. Then here's another close up here. And then this is a postcard that I bought from their little gift shop. You'll actually see part of it later because I kept it. And over here, this is a side chapel, but I mean, really, it could be the showpiece of this church. It is so gorgeous. Look at all the ornate detail in there. It's kind of insane, the time and money and materials that went into building something like this. And then after that, I needed a break, so I went and found a little coffee shop in town. It's actually just the Shrewsbury Coffee House. So I went and had coffee and a little snack to recharge. And then when I left there, I actually came across a Christmas store. And so I decided to go in because I have a couple of friends who, their thing is they love to collect ornaments. And so whenever I travel, I offer to get them something. And so I did go in there and buy a couple of things and took some lovely pictures as well. Got to use some fun sequins in there, so that's awesome. And then my last major stop was Shrewsbury Abbey. So you walk across this beautiful bridge to the other part of town, and then you are at this very, very old abbey. That's the front of it there. And then here I wanted to include some of the info boards they had. Now, yes, it's very hard to read that tiny, tiny print, but I do have them digitally so I can blow those up and read the whole thing whenever I want. But I did want to include something for those. And then this is looking kind of backwards towards the front door of the church from close to the altar. So you get to see that lovely window up top. And I had this huge wood veneer, painted wood veneer from Allie Edwards, and it worked great to fit into that space. And then I have the high altar. Now, the only bummer of this was the day I was there, it was not fully opened. So all of these green panels open, and then they have, biblical scenes on the inside. And I was so looking forward to it, hoping they'd be open, but sadly, they were not. So if I ever get the chance to go back and see them fully opened, I would do it in a heartbeat. But it's still lovely even when it's closed. Look at all the gold, and the green on the outside is lovely. So I talked about that a little bit there. There's a long view of it. So that tiny thing right there is the same altar. So that gives you kind of an idea of the scale of the abbey. It's quite large. And then here is part of the organ pipes that you can see. And I found it interesting that they were colored like this. Really brightens up the space, I think. And then because this has been around so long, it started in the 900s. Yes, not 900s, and was built on subsequently over the years. It stopped being built on in the 1400s, I believe. So lots of people are buried here when they still did burials inside the church. And it's hard to see in the photo, but this one says that the person died in November of 1712. And they were born in 1639. So pretty old. Lots of old graves and monuments inside this abbey. And then here I'm looking at lovely stained glass again, and some fun banners that they had inside that were just so colorful and beautifully done that I wanted to include those as well. And then I tried to make this vibrant so that it would match the feel of how bright these colors are. And then my last viewing inside the abbey here, I have the pulpit. and some little side chapel things that were also very lovely. And so when I left, I needed to get back to the train station. And in order to do that, I had to go back across the same bridge. So this is a view looking out over the bridge, and there just happened to be swans there. And I wanted to really highlight it because it was kind of a dull and dreary day, but I had such a great experience in Shrewsbury that I wanted to liven it up a bit. So I chose to use a lot of sparkly, colorful sequins. And when I did this layout in the process video, I only had these two phrases here, and then I decided after the fact, oh, I want a third one to bring in the blue, but this was sealed shut because I had already done the sequins. I had used a full 3x8 and made my own pocket. So this is adhered close. I can't get that open, so I just stuck this on the outside. I don't even know if you can tell that just from looking, but this one is on the outside of the page protector. And then here's another view of the bridge. There was a little kind of plaque, some historical info there. I just thought it looked very old world, so I wanted to include it. And then my very last item is this pocket, and I had to get creative with how to include it because in a flip book, it is not the easiest thing to work in things like this because they don't have a standard gutter to work with. And so just given the way the closure works, I had to get creative. And so I just used these little extra strips. I just made tabs basically that would flip back and forth. And as you can see, they are creasing a little bit already. They're supposed to. That helps them flip. So that's fine. And then in the pocket, I just have some extra little things, an extra bookmark, my receipt from the Christmas store, a photo that didn't really fit anywhere else, info on the library, talks about Charles Darwin, and then here's that postcard that I referenced earlier. I cut off part of it just so that you could see the main face here, but I did want to include that as well. So all of those go right back into the pocket there. And they're varying lengths, so it makes it visually interesting when you're looking at that stuff. And then the last little bit is, this was also another bookmark. And so it fit almost perfectly. I only had to cut off just a little bit to get it to fit in there. And so I adhered that, used a little washi, and did a piece of chipboard. That's it. So this was really fun to put together. I'm really liking the flip books for smaller albums. I was only in this city for a day, or even less than a day. I think it ended up being like maybe 9 hours. And, you know, part of that was a coffee break. So doing all that, walking around, having lunch, all of that fit into this one album, which is great. I love it. So I hope you enjoyed watching me put this together and now seeing it once it's all done. Thanks for watching.